The emerald canopy shivers as rain strikes the leaves. Below, a woman stands alone in a clearing, her rounded belly visible beneath a worn cotton dress. Maria Santos drives her machete into stubborn soil, pausing only to wipe sweat from her brow. The wooden cross marking her husband's grave stands sentinel at the edge of the field. She whispers to her unborn child about the father he will never know, about the dream that keeps her here, surviving against impossible odds. Thunder cracks. Maria squints through sheets of rain toward movement in the trees. A stranger stumbles forward, pale and bleeding, before collapsing at her feet. Will this lost explorer be her salvation, or bring danger to the only home she has left? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dawn breaks over the jungle in ribbons of gold and pink. Maria Santos opens her eyes before the light fully penetrates the thatched roof of her small hut. Her hand instinctively moves to her swollen belly, feeling the gentle flutter of movement within. "Good morning, little one," she whispers. "Another day for us." The wooden floor creaks as she rises, her back aching from the growing weight of her child. 7 months now. The baby would arrive with the rainy season, just as Roberto had predicted before the fever took him. Maria moves to the small table where a clay cup of water waits. Beside it lies the leather-bound journal, its pages swollen from humidity. She opens it carefully, reading Roberto's careful handwriting in the first half, plans for irrigation channels, sketches of expanded fields, lists of crops to try. His dreams captured in fading ink. She turns to her own entries in the second half. Shorter, more practical. Water levels in the river. Successful plantings. The first kick of their child. Outside, mist clings to the cleared land surrounding the hut. Beyond, the jungle stands like a green wall, both protection and threat. Roberto had pushed it back foot by foot, machetes swinging from dawn until dusk. "This is our future," he would say, gesturing to the rich, dark soil they exposed. Maria eats quickly, a handful of berries and a corn cake from yesterday's fire. The day's work won't wait. Pregnancy hasn't made the jungle more forgiving. She secures her hair with a faded ribbon and takes the machete from its place by the door. The weight of it is familiar now, though it had once seemed impossibly heavy. Roberto had laughed gently at her first attempts to use it. "Not like cutting vegetables, mi vida," he had said, guiding her hands. "Let the blade do the work." Maria walks to the wooden cross marking Roberto's grave at the edge of their clearing. Simple, made from branches lashed together, it stands as the border between their cultivated land and the wilderness. "I'm keeping our promise," she tells him. The same words every morning for nearly a year now. The sun climbs higher as Maria works, clearing new growth from their small field. Vines and saplings, the jungle reclaiming what Roberto had taken. She won't allow it. Sweat rolls down her face, her dress clinging to her rounded belly. When the baby kicks hard, she pauses, leaning on the machete. "Yes, I know. Your papa would be resting now too." She looks toward the river, barely visible through the trees. "He would take me there to cool our feet and tell me stories about his childhood in the mountains." Instead, she sits alone, under the shade of a mango tree Roberto had insisted on saving. "Every farm needs beauty as well as purpose," he had said. From her perch, Maria surveys their land. Small by any standard, barely 2 acres cleared, but it had been enough for their dreams. A place to grow food, raise children, live simply. Far from the village where both had felt like outsiders, Roberto for his progressive ideas, Maria for having no family left. As the afternoon heat intensifies, Maria returns to the hut. Inside, she retrieves the journal again, recording the day's progress and speaking aloud as she writes. The eastern corner needs stronger barriers against the forest pigs. They've been rooting near the yucca again. Writing makes Roberto feel closer, as if he might read her words somehow. Her water supply runs low. With a sigh, Maria takes the clay jug and follows the narrow path to the river. Here the jungle closes in, branches creating a tunnel of green. She's learned to move quietly, eyes scanning for snakes or the tracks of jungle cats. At the river's edge, she kneels carefully, filling the jug while listening to the sounds around her. Birds call warnings to each other. Insects hum continuously. The language of the jungle. Roberto had taught her to interpret it. When it goes silent, he had warned, that's when you must be most alert. As if summoned by the memory, the jungle falls quiet. Maria freezes, water dripping from her fingers. Something has disturbed the natural rhythm. Thunder rolls in the distance. A storm approaches, unusual for this time of year. Maria hurries back to the hut, securing loose items and checking that the roof patches will hold. As rain begins to fall, she sits by the doorway, journal in her lap, machete beside her. One hand rests on her belly, feeling the life within. Your father would say the rain is a blessing, she tells her unborn child. But too much of any blessing can become a flood. The storm intensifies, sheets of water obscuring the jungle. Maria doesn't see the figure stumbling through the trees until a flash of lightning illuminates his pale, injured form. Lightning illuminates the stranger's face, pale, mud-streaked with several days of beard. His clothes, once professional-grade expedition wear, hang in tatters. Blood seeps through a makeshift bandage on his left arm. Maria stands frozen in her doorway, machete gripped tightly. The man stumbles forward 2 more steps before collapsing face down in the mud. The rain pounds mercilessly against his motionless form. Dios mío, Maria whispers, her free hand instinctively protecting her belly. The stranger doesn't move. If he's a threat, he's not an immediate one. Still, Maria approaches cautiously, machete extended. Close now, she can hear his labored breathing. He moans softly, but remains unconscious. Maria glances back at her hut, then at the surrounding jungle. No one else emerges from the trees. Decision made, she hooks her arms under the man's shoulders and drags him towards shelter, her pregnant body protesting the strain. Inside, she props him against the wall and retrieves her small knife. Cutting away his torn sleeve reveals a deep gash, angry and beginning to show signs of infection. From a shelf, she takes a clay pot of paste made from jungle plants Roberto had shown her, antibacterial, pain-relieving. As she works, the stranger's eyelids flutter but don't open. His skin burns with fever. Words escape his lips, English, not Spanish. Maria understands some from her schooling years ago. The boat, he mumbles. There's still river. Maria removes a sodden backpack from his shoulders. Inside, she finds a waterproof case containing a torn map with markings and notes in English. Several areas are circled, with one route highlighted along the river 5 miles east of her farm. The date in the corner shows the expedition began 3 weeks ago. Lucas Turner, lead anthropologist, reads a waterlogged ID card. The man, Lucas, stirs again, eyes opening briefly before rolling back. Maria continues her examination, finding a deep bruise on his temple and numerous scratches across his arms and face. His expensive boots are worn through at the soles. How long had he been wandering? The nearest research station was nearly 60 miles downriver. No villages existed in this remote section of jungle. Maria boils water, cleaning his wounds methodically. She'd done the same for Roberto during his fever, though with different results. The memory tightens her throat. Outside, the storm intensifies. The hut's roof leaks in one corner, a steady drip forming a small puddle. Maria places a pot to catch it before returning to her patient. Water. Lucas croaks suddenly, his eyes still closed. Maria holds a cup to his lips. He drinks greedily before slipping back into unconsciousness. She makes a simple pallet on the floor with her spare blanket, keeping Lucas far from her own sleeping mat. After positioning him on the pallet, she wedges her small table against the door and places the machete beside her bed. Sleep comes fitfully. Maria wakes at every sound. The stranger's fevered murmuring, the storm's rage, and her own child's restless movements within her. Morning brings no relief. Rain continues to fall, and Lucas's fever spikes higher. He thrashes, calling names, Carter, Emilia, Professor Daniels. His expedition team, perhaps. Maria places cool cloths on his forehead and forces water between his lips when possible. Her own supplies dwindle. If his condition worsens, she has no way to seek help. By afternoon, Lucas's ramblings become more coherent. His eyes open briefly, focusing on Maria with confusion. "The others?" he asks. "No others," Maria replies in careful English. "Just you." Despair crosses his face before unconsciousness claims him again. That evening, Maria sits by the doorway watching the rain. She opens Roberto's journal, finding comfort in his words about kindness to strangers. "The jungle tests us," he had written. "Our response to those tests defines us." She looks at the sleeping stranger, this Lucas Turner who fell from nowhere into her careful, isolated life. A complication, a responsibility, perhaps a threat. Yet as night falls, when his fever rises dangerously and he calls for his mother in a child's frightened voice, Maria finds herself singing the same lullabies she's been singing to her unborn child. Her hand moves between her belly and the cool cloth on Lucas's forehead, tending to two lives now instead of just her own. In his delirium, Lucas grasps the torn map, fingers tracing invisible paths even in sleep. Night blends into day, then back to night as Lucas's fever rages. Maria grinds leaves and bark in the clay bowl her grandmother had given her mother, who had passed it to her. The pestle fits her palm perfectly, worn smooth by generations of women's hands. "This will help," she murmurs, though Lucas can't understand her Spanish. She applies the bitter paste to his wound, which has begun to drain. In his delirium, Lucas speaks continuously. Maria catches fragments: university research, indigenous territories, rare medicinal plants. Sometimes he argues with invisible colleagues about proper documentation methods. Other times, he recites what sound like academic papers. The historical migration patterns suggest cultural exchange rather than conquest, he mumbles, eyes moving rapidly behind closed lids. During brief moments of lucidity, he watches Maria with confusion. "Where am I?" he asks during one such interval. "My farm," she answers in halting English. "How long?" "2 days," his eyes widen. "The others?" The boat capsized. He attempts to rise but falls back, too weak to sit. "Rest," Maria says firmly, pressing a cup of boiled bark tea to his lips. "Drink." He complies, grimacing at the bitter taste before slipping back into fevered sleep. Maria continues her routine around his presence. She cannot stop tending the crops or gathering water. The baby's constant movements remind her that life continues, demanding attention regardless of this complication. On the 3rd day, Lucas's fever breaks. Maria finds him sitting up when she returns from the river, water jug balanced on her hip. "You saved my life," he says clearly, his eyes fully focused for the first time. Maria sets down the water. "You were lost. My team." He looks toward the door. "I need to find them." "Not yet." Maria gestures to his arm. Still healing. Lucas examines the wound, now clean and scabbing properly. "What did you use on this?" Maria indicates the clay bowl with its residue of medicinal paste. "Plants my husband showed me." "Your husband?" Lucas glances around the single-room hut. "Dead, 1 year." Maria places a hand on her belly. "Before knowing about the baby." Understanding transforms Lucas's face. He takes in the solitary bed, the carefully organized supplies, the worn machete by the door. "You've been alone out here." "While pregnant?" Maria straightens her shoulders. "This is our land, our home." Lucas's gaze turns respectful. He attempts to stand, but sways unsteadily. Slowly, Maria cautions, helping him back down. "Eat first." She offers a bowl of rice and jungle fruits. As he eats, Lucas studies the clay bowl. "This design," he says, pointing to the faint pattern etched around its rim. "It's similar to artifacts we've been documenting from the Guarani tribes." Maria shrugs. "Family bowl." For medicine, Lucas's academic interest visibly peaks, but exhaustion overtakes him. He hands back the empty food bowl and lies down again. That night his sleep is calmer. Maria allows herself deeper rest too, though she keeps the machete close. She dreams of Roberto, standing at the edge of their field. "You did right," he tells her. Compassion is never wasted. When she reaches for him, he fades into the tree line. Maria wakes to find Lucas sitting at her small table in pre-dawn light, writing in a small notebook salvaged from his pack. He looks up when she stirs. "I need to thank you properly," he says, his Spanish halting but understandable. "You didn't have to help a stranger." Maria measures her response carefully. "The jungle takes many. I couldn't watch it take another." Lucas nods, understanding the reference to her husband. "I'm an anthropologist," he explains. "We were documenting indigenous medicinal practices when our boat hit rapids unexpectedly." "Others?" Maria asks. "5 colleagues. We separated in the water." His face tightens. "I need to search for them." Maria gestures to his still weak state. "Not today," Lucas reluctantly agrees. He indicates the clay bowl. "That medicine you used, it's remarkable. Would you show me the plants?" For the first time in a year, Maria feels the strange lightness of having conversation over breakfast. Simple questions, shared observations, another human voice besides her own when Lucas attempts to help wash the breakfast bowls. Dropping one with still unsteady hands, they both freeze at the small crash. Then Maria laughs, a rusty sound. Surprised from her throat, Lucas smiles in response, a careful connection forming between two people who, just days before, had been strangers in separate worlds. Morning sunlight filters through the doorway as Maria tends the small cook fire. 5 days since the stranger collapsed at her feet. Lucas sits on a stool outside, his strength returning, but his arm still held carefully against his body. "Your husband built this place?" Lucas asks in improving Spanish as Maria emerges with 2 cups of coffee, real coffee, saved for special occasions. She nods, handing him a cup. 3 years ago, we came with nothing but tools and seeds." Lucas surveys the small clearing, the carefully maintained field, the irrigation channels. "Impressive," he says with genuine respect. Maria's eyes move to the wooden cross. Roberto had big dreams. After breakfast, Maria demonstrates how to check the crops for pests. Lucas follows, asking questions about growing seasons and soil composition. His academic knowledge occasionally surprises her. Farming. Theory, not practice, he admits. "I've studied indigenous agricultural methods, but my hands aren't calloused like yours." They work side by side, falling into an unexpected rhythm. When Maria needs to rest, the baby especially active today, Lucas continues alone, clearing weeds with careful determination. In the afternoon, while Maria naps, Lucas explores the small storage shed behind the hut. Among tools and supplies, he discovers a half-finished wooden crib, the craftsmanship simple but skillful. Beside it lies a small carving knife and sandpaper. When Maria wakes, she finds Lucas sitting with the unfinished crib, running his fingers along the smooth edges. "I found this," he says softly. "Your husband's work?" Maria nods, throat tight. "He began it when we learned of the baby." Lucas studies the construction. "May I? I'm no craftsman, but my father was a carpenter. He taught me some basics." Maria hesitates, then nods. Some things are too painful to finish alone. While Maria prepares dinner, Lucas works on the crib, sanding rough spots with careful movements. His anthropologist's hands, more accustomed to documenting artifacts than creating them, move with unexpected grace. "What brought you to this jungle?" Maria asks over their evening meal. Lucas explains his expedition, researching traditional medicine among remote tribes, documenting practices that might benefit modern healthcare. "Plants your husband showed you might contain compounds that could help thousands. Roberto learned from the village elders," Maria says. "They had remedies for everything." "The nearest village is 30 miles downstream," Lucas notes. "Not that one. A smaller settlement, deeper in the jungle." Maria's face grows guarded. "They left 2 years ago. Moved farther into the interior." Lucas's academic interest visibly peaks, but he restrains his questions when he notices her expression. That night, Maria feels the baby kick vigorously. Without thinking, she takes Lucas's hand and places it on her belly. His eyes widen at the strong movement. He will be strong like his father, Maria says. The mother knows. She withdraws her hand, suddenly aware of the intimacy. Lucas returns to the crib, working by lamplight. Maria watches his profile, this stranger who is no longer quite a stranger. In the morning, Lucas seems withdrawn. He works mechanically, eyes frequently turning toward the river. Your team, Maria acknowledges. You worry. If any survived, they would follow the river downstream to the research station. Maria understands his unspoken conflict, the duty to search versus his still recovering strength. One more day of rest, she advises. Then we can check the river together. Lucas looks surprised at her offer of help. You shouldn't. I know these jungles better than you, she interrupts. And I have practiced not falling into rivers. His smile returns, the tension breaking. A valuable skill. That afternoon, heavy rain confines them indoors. Lucas teaches Maria English words while he works on the crib. She corrects his Spanish pronunciation. Embarazada does not mean embarrassed, she laughs when he makes a particularly amusing mistake. Languages are like rivers, Lucas says. They look simple from a distance, but are full of unexpected currents up close. When the rain clears, they venture outside to assess any damage. A tree branch has fallen near the grave marker. Together they clear it away. Lucas stands respectfully before the cross. He must have been a remarkable man. He was. Maria adjusts the small stones surrounding the grave. Simple, hard-working, he saw beauty in difficult things. As sunset approaches, Maria finds Lucas putting finishing touches on the crib. Now complete except for a small carved decoration on the headboard. For that, Lucas says, setting down the tools, we need the right inspiration. That night, Maria dreams of Roberto showing the baby to a tribal elder. When she wakes, she hears Lucas coughing. His fever has returned, milder but concerning. Maria reaches for the clay medicine bowl, their roles reversing once again. Lucas's second fever breaks faster than the first. By morning, he insists on working despite Maria's protests. I've taken enough of your supplies, he says, voice stronger. Let me contribute. They survey the eastern field wall, damaged by recent rains. Lucas studies the construction, then suggests reinforcements using river stones. Maria is skeptical, but agrees to try. At the river, Lucas examines Roberto's partially completed irrigation system with professional interest. This design is clever, but could be more efficient. Maria watches, arms crossed protectively over her belly. Roberto knew what he was doing. I'm sure he did, Lucas says carefully. But I studied water management systems among the Inca. There might be techniques to combine with his approach. Maria's resistance softens slightly. Show me. They collect stones, Lucas demonstrating how to position them to create stronger water flow while preventing erosion. Maria contributes her knowledge of seasonal flooding patterns. When they disagree, their arguments are respectful rather than hostile. By midday, sweat-soaked and mud-streaked, they step back to observe their work. Water flows smoothly through the enhanced channel, directed precisely toward the crops most in need. Roberto would approve, Maria admits, surprising herself with the lack of pain in the acknowledgement. Lucas smiles briefly before turning serious. I need to search downriver tomorrow. Maria nods. She has known this was coming. I will show you the safe paths. That evening they prepare for the journey. Maria packs a day's worth of food while Lucas mends his torn backpack. The domesticity of their movements feels both strange and natural. Tell me about your expedition, Maria says as they work. What were you seeking? Lucas describes his team's mission to document traditional medicinal practices before they disappear with modernization. His passion becomes evident in his animated gestures. The knowledge these communities hold could benefit medicine worldwide, but it's being lost as younger generations leave for cities, like the knowledge Roberto gained from the elders, Maria observes. Exactly. Lucas hesitates. The settlement you mentioned before, the one that moved deeper into the jungle. What can you tell me about them? Maria's hands still. Little. They kept to themselves. Came to trade occasionally. She focuses on adjusting her pack straps. Roberto earned their respect by asking permission before clearing land. They showed him which plants heal and which harm. Did they have a name? They called themselves the Children of the River Mist. In their language, something like Nyara. Lucas's eyes widen. The Nyara? They're considered mythical by most researchers, a splinter group that rejected outside contact centuries ago. Maria shrugs. They seemed real enough to me. A comfortable silence falls as they continue their preparations. Lucas finishes repairs on his pack, then returns to the crib, working on the small decorative element for the headboard. What will you carve? Maria asks. I'm thinking a bird representing freedom and protection. Roberto would have chosen a tree, Maria says softly. Roots and branches. Stability and growth. Lucas sets down his knife. A tree it should be then. The next morning dawns clear. Maria leads Lucas along narrow jungle paths that parallel the river. She moves with surprising agility, despite her pregnancy, pointing out hazards. A poisonous vine. A section where caimans often sun themselves. Lucas takes notes in a small waterproof book, mapping their route. At one point, Maria stops abruptly, placing a finger to her lips. She points to tracks crossing their path, large feline prints. Jaguar, she whispers. Recent. Lucas studies the tracks with academic interest, but Maria's wariness reminds him this is no research expedition. The jungle's beauty carries deadly consequences. They reach a wide bend in the river where debris has collected. Branches, leaves, fragments of what might be a boat. Lucas searches intently, finding nothing to indicate his team's fate. As they rest before returning, Lucas asks, how did you and Roberto choose this remote location? Maria gazes at the flowing water. We didn't want to be found. By whom? Her expression closes. People with papers claiming ownership of things that shouldn't be owned. Lucas doesn't press further, recognizing the boundary. Instead, he shares stories of his own childhood in rural Mexico, where his father built furniture and his mother taught school. Walking back, they spot a magnificent blue morpho butterfly. It lands briefly on Maria's shoulder before fluttering away. A good omen, she says, with her first genuine smile since they'd met. That night, Lucas completes the tree carving on the crib. Maria runs her fingers over the simple but elegant design, roots below, branches reaching upward. Perfect, she whispers. Listen before you walk, Maria instructs, holding Lucas back with a gentle hand. They stand motionless on the narrow jungle path, morning light filtering through the dense canopy. Lucas obeys, closing his eyes to focus his hearing. At first, he perceives only the usual jungle symphony, bird calls, insect hums, the distant gurgle of water. Then, as Maria clearly intended, he notices the absence, a pocket of silence where sound should be. There, he whispers, pointing toward the unnatural quiet. Maria nods approval. Wild pigs. They silence the birds and insects. Dangerous if surprised. 2 weeks have passed since Lucas's arrival. His arm has healed enough for Maria to begin teaching him survival skills. Today's lesson, recognizing the jungle's warning signs. They skirt the silent area, Maria moving with practiced ease despite her advancing pregnancy. Lucas follows, mimicking her careful footfalls. Your academic knowledge of plants is impressive, Maria acknowledges as they gather edible fungi. But the jungle doesn't care what you know, only what you do. Lucas accepts the gentle rebuke. Theory versus practice, the eternal academic's dilemma. Back at the homestead, Maria demonstrates how to reinforce the chicken coop against predators. Lucas's engineering background proves useful as they reconfigure the structure. Roberto built this from jungle wood without a single nail, Maria explains, patting the frame. He said metal rusts, but knowledge endures. Later, as they rest in the afternoon heat, Lucas sketches the homestead layout in his notebook. What you've created here is remarkable. Most people wouldn't survive a month. Maria's hand moves to her pendant, a small carved stone on a leather cord. A habit Lucas has noticed during moments of reflection. My father taught Roberto and me some basics before we left. The rest we learned by necessity. Your father was familiar with jungle living. A shadow crosses Maria's face. He knew many things. The conversation shifts as the baby delivers a particularly energetic kick. Maria winces, placing Lucas's hand on her belly so he can feel the movement. Strong, he comments, smiling at the sensation. The intimate gesture has become comfortable between them, the boundary of personal space gradually dissolving. That evening, a harsh cry echoes from the jungle. Lucas startles, but Maria continues her cooking, unconcerned. Jaguar, she explains. Far away. They sound closer than they are. You're never afraid out here? Lucas asks. Maria considers the question. Fear doesn't help you survive. Respect does. She stirs the pot thoughtfully. Roberto used to say we're guests here, not owners. After dinner, Lucas continues his attempts to make contact with potential rescuers using his repaired emergency radio. Static answers his calls. Maria watches from the doorway. Your team would have reached the research station by now if they survived, or been found by someone else, Lucas insists. Though his voice lacks conviction, when he finally sets the radio aside, Maria hesitates before kneeling beside the bed. She pries up a loose floorboard, revealing a hidden compartment. If you're staying longer, she says quietly, you should know about this. From the space beneath. She removes a long object wrapped in oiled cloth. Unwrapping it reveals an intricately carved wooden spear, its tip fashioned from a polished stone that gleams in the lamplight. Lucas gasps, instantly recognizing its significance. This is a ceremonial hunting spear. Anthropologists have only seen fragments in museums. It belonged to my grandfather, Maria says simply. For protection. Lucas examines the carvings with professional reverence. These symbols, they're consistent with the Nayara traditions. How did your family come to possess this? Maria replaces the spear carefully. Some questions are better left unasked until you're ready for their answers. The cryptic response intrigues, rather than offends Lucas. He's learning that Maria's silences contain as much information as her words. That night, a distant rhythmic pounding echoes through the jungle. Lucas sits up, listening intently. Drums, he whispers. Maria's eyes open, reflecting the moonlight filtering through the window. Yes, the Nayara. Perhaps. She turns away, effectively ending the conversation. In the morning, Maria seems unusually quiet. She spends time at Roberto's grave, speaking softly in words Lucas can't hear. When she returns, her decision is clear. Today we go deeper into the jungle. There are things you should know if you're going to stay. Stay. The word hangs between them. Neither commitment nor question. Maria touches her pendant again. The drums were not a coincidence. Changes are coming. You should be prepared. Lucas nods, understanding that whatever Maria plans to show him will cross the line from simple jungle lessons to something more significant. I'm ready, he says. Though uncertainty flickers in his eyes, Maria's smile is fleeting but genuine. No one is ever ready for the jungle's truths. We just become brave enough to face them. Dark clouds mass on the horizon, unnatural for this season. Maria studies the sky with concern as she and Lucas return from gathering medicinal plants in the eastern forest. Bad storm coming, she says, her voice tight. We need to prepare. They work quickly, securing loose items around the homestead. Lucas reinforces the chicken coop while Maria harvests vulnerable crops. The wind rises, bending the tallest trees like reeds. This isn't normal weather, Lucas observes, helping Maria drag water barrels under shelter. No, she agrees, eyes on the churning sky. The jungle feels angry. Inside the hut, Maria lights oil lamps as premature darkness falls. Lucas checks his emergency radio transmitter, adjusting dials with precise movements. Any signal? Maria asks, securing the shutters. Lucas shakes his head. Too much atmospheric interference. He places the device carefully on the table. This might be our only link to the outside if the storm is as bad as it looks. The first raindrops hit like bullets against the thatched roof. Within minutes, water pours in sheets, drumming so loudly, conversation becomes difficult. Wind howls through every crack in the walls. Maria winces suddenly, hand going to her lower back. The baby, Lucas asks, instantly alert. Just practice contractions. Still 6 weeks to go. Despite her reassurance, her discomfort is evident. The storm intensifies. A loud crack signals a tree falling nearby. The hut shudders with each gust. But Roberto's craftsmanship holds. Forced into close quarters, they sit side by side on Maria's sleeping mat, backs against the wall furthest from the door. Lucas's radio emits occasional bursts of static, but no voices. "Tell me about your home," Maria says, during a brief lull in the storm's fury. Lucas describes his apartment in Mexico City, filled with books and artifacts. "Nothing like this," he admits. "Comfortable but impersonal. No family waiting. My parents died years ago. Colleagues are my closest relationships. A particularly violent gust rattles the hut." Maria instinctively grabs Lucas's hand. Neither pulls away. "I always imagined raising my child in a village," she confesses. "With other children, grandmothers to give advice." Her voice drops. "Not alone in the jungle." "You're not alone now," Lucas says quietly. Their eyes meet in the lamplight. Something unspoken passes between them. Recognition of how quickly strangers can become essential to each other. The moment breaks when water begins seeping under the door. They scramble to place cloths as barriers, working in synchronized movements that require no discussion. As midnight approaches, the storm reaches its peak. A sharp crack and splintering sound announces part of the roof giving way. Rain pours through the new opening, directly above the table where Lucas's radio sits. Lucas lunges, grabbing the device just before water cascades onto it. Maria drags the table away, and together they position a cooking pot to catch the worst of the leak. "That was close," Lucas says, checking the radio for damage. "Why is it so important to you?" Maria asks, genuinely curious. "Your team would have been found by now, or—" She doesn't finish the thought. Lucas carefully dries the device. "It's not just about my team anymore. It's knowing there's still a connection to that world." Maria understands. Her hand goes to her pendant, her own tether to a different past. The storm rages through the night. They take turns watching the leaks and reinforcing weak points. During Maria's rest period, Lucas notices her shivering despite the tropical heat and wraps his jacket around her shoulders. Near dawn, when the wind finally begins to subside, they find themselves exhausted but still vigilant, sitting shoulder to shoulder. "My grandmother told stories of storms like this," Maria says softly. "She said they come when the world is about to change. Is that what's happening?" Lucas asks. "Is the world changing?" Maria meets his gaze steadily. "Mine already has." Morning reveals the storm's destruction. Part of the eastern field wall has collapsed. Branches and debris litter the clearing. Most concerning, a massive tree has fallen across the path to the river, blocking their water access. Standing in the doorway, surveying the damage, Lucas's arm slips naturally around Maria's shoulders. "She doesn't pull away. We'll rebuild," he says with surprising conviction. "We—" And Maria questions, looking up at him. Before Lucas can respond, the radio on the table crackles to life. Through bursts of static, a voice emerges. "Expedition base to Turner team. Repeat." "Survivors located?" Searching for Lucas Turner. Lucas and Maria stare at the device, then at each other. The outside world, which had seemed so distant, has suddenly reappeared, bringing with it choices neither is prepared to make. The radio message changes everything and nothing. Lucas establishes contact, confirms his location approximately, and learns 3 of his 5 teammates survived. They've made it to the research station downriver and organized a search party. They could reach us in 3 days if they follow the eastern tributary, Lucas explains, studying his partially destroyed maps. His voice carries an excitement he can't quite hide. Maria nods, her expression carefully neutral as she sorts salvageable vegetables from the storm-damaged crop. "You will be glad to return to your work, not a question." An assumption. Lucas doesn't correct her. Instead, he helps clear debris from the collapsed section of roof. Working methodically alongside Maria, they've fallen into an efficient partnership, anticipating each other's movements with unexpected familiarity. By midday, the immediate repairs are underway. Lucas splits palm fronds for roof patching, while Maria prepares a simple lunch. The normalcy feels fragile, hovering over the unspoken question of his departure. "Your pendant," Lucas says abruptly, noticing how Maria touches it repeatedly today. "I've been meaning to ask what the symbols represent." Maria's hand moves from the pendant to a second object hanging beside it. A simple gold band. "Roberto's ring," she explains. "I couldn't bear to put it away." Lucas nods, understanding, but persists gently. "And the pendant?" "Family protection charm. My grandmother said it would keep me safe in times of change." She tucks both items beneath her dress. "We should clear the path to the river before dark. The fallen tree blocking their water access requires hours of work, with machetes and Maria's small axe." They labor side by side, conversation minimal but comfortable. When they finally create a passable path, both are exhausted and dirt-streaked. At the river, Maria kneels to wash her face while Lucas refills their water jugs. The late afternoon sun filters through leaves, dappling the water with gold. An unexpected moment of beauty amid destruction. "I've been thinking," Lucas begins, then pauses when Maria looks up at him, water droplets clinging to her eyelashes. Whatever he intended to say shifts. "We should reinforce the eastern field wall differently this time. The previous design couldn't handle heavy water flow." Maria studies him, seeming to hear the words he didn't say. "Yes, for next time." That evening they eat outside, watching fireflies emerge as darkness falls. The night air smells clean after the storm, petrichor mixing with jungle blossoms. "What will you tell your colleagues about these weeks?" Maria asks suddenly. Lucas considers the question carefully. "That I was fortunate to find shelter with someone who understood the jungle. That I learned more than I taught. Nothing of the Nyara or my family's connection. Not without your permission." Lucas meets her eyes. "Some knowledge isn't mine to share." Maria nods, satisfied. Her hand drifts to her belly, where the baby moves actively tonight. "May I?" Lucas asks, the gesture now familiar between them. Maria guides his hand to where the movements are strongest. They sit in comfortable silence, connected by the simple miracle beneath their palms. "Roberto would have been a wonderful father," Maria says softly. "I'm sure he would have," Lucas agrees, his hand still resting lightly on her belly. Neither acknowledges how domestically intimate they've become, how naturally they've adapted to each other's presence. To speak of it would make Lucas's impending departure too real. Instead, they discuss practical matters, which crops need replanting, how to strengthen the chicken coop, whether the rains will continue. Plans that extend beyond Lucas's remaining days, as if by discussing them, they might somehow become his plans too. That night, Lucas works late by lamplight, sketching detailed improvements for the irrigation system, designs that would take weeks to implement. Maria watches silently from her bed, recognizing the gesture for what it is, a man leaving blueprints for a future he won't share. In the morning, they repair the roof together. Lucas secures palm fronds, while Maria hands him materials from below, their timing perfect after weeks of shared work. When the final section is sealed, Lucas sits back on the roof ridge, surveying their handiwork. "It will hold through the next storm," he says with satisfaction. "Yes," Maria agrees, looking up at him silhouetted against the blue sky. "It will hold." That afternoon, distant thunder returns, not weather but drums. The same rhythmic pattern from before, closer now. Maria freezes, her hand going to the pendant beneath her dress. Lucas descends from the roof quickly. "The Nyara?" Maria nods, her expression troubled. "They're coming? Is that bad?" She searches for the right word. Complicated, the drums continue, a steady heartbeat from the western jungle. Maria clutches both pendant and wedding ring, caught between past promises and present dangers. "Lucas," she says finally, "before your people arrive, there's something you need to understand about mine." They sit before the small cooking fire as night falls. The drums, a constant presence in the distance. Maria's hands move restlessly, alternating between her pendant and her swollen belly. "My grandmother was Nayara," she begins, voice barely above a whisper. "She left the tribe to marry my grandfather, a logger who respected their ways. The elders permitted it because he had once saved a tribal child from drowning." Lucas listens intently. Anthropologist instincts heightened, but he remains silent, allowing her story to unfold. "My mother grew up in the village downriver, caught between worlds. When she died giving birth to me, my father brought me to his parents. They raised me with little connection to my mother's heritage." Maria's gaze fixes on the fire. "Until the dreams began." "Dreams?" "Of jungle paths I'd never walked, plants I'd never seen. When I described them to my grandmother, she recognized them as sacred Nayara locations." Maria touches her pendant. "She gave me this before she died, saying it would lead me home when the time came." Lucas's scientific mind struggles with the mystical implications. "You believe the pendant guided you?" "I know how it sounds." Maria's smile is sad. "Roberto and I were looking for land far from developers. We chose this valley for practical reasons: water access, fertile soil. But when we arrived, I recognized it from my dreams. And the Nayara? They found us 3 months after we settled. Instead of driving us away, they watched. Eventually, an elder approached Roberto while he worked. They spoke for hours." Maria's expression grows distant. "After that, tribal members would occasionally appear at the edge of our clearing, leaving small gifts, seeds, carvings." Lucas processes this remarkable information. "They accepted you because of your grandmother's bloodline, partly, and because Roberto showed respect for the land." Maria rises with effort, retrieving something from beneath the floorboard, a small carved totem of wood and stone. "This appeared at the edge of our property the day after Roberto died. It marks our land as under Nayara protection." Lucas examines the totem with professional reverence, recognizing symbols consistent with fragments he studied. "This is extraordinary. The Nayara are considered almost mythical in academic circles. They prefer it that way." Maria reclaims the totem. "They've retreated deeper into the jungle as outsiders encroach. Few have seen their village in generations, yet they've maintained contact with you." Maria nods. "More frequently since Roberto's death. The elder, they call him, voice of ancestors, has visited twice to check on my health and the babies." The implications stagger Lucas. His entire academic career has focused on documenting vanishing indigenous knowledge. The opportunity before him is unprecedented. "Maria, do you understand what this means? The Nayara's medical knowledge alone could be invaluable to modern science. Their sustainability practices, their cultural traditions—" "No." Maria's tone sharpens. "This is exactly why they remain hidden. They've seen what happens when their knowledge becomes a resource for outsiders to exploit." Lucas starts to object, then catches himself, recognizing the colonial undertones of his excitement. "You're right. I apologize." The tension eases slightly. Maria continues more gently. "The drums mean they're moving through their seasonal territories. They'll likely pass near here within days. Is that dangerous for us?" "Not if we stay respectful." Maria hesitates. "But your search party, if they blunder into Nayara land without understanding the protocols, the implication hangs heavily between them. Lucas's rescue could trigger exactly the kind of contact the Nayara have spent generations avoiding. I need to warn my team," Lucas says. Moving toward his radio, Maria catches his wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "And tell them what? That you found the location of a tribe anthropologists have sought for decades." The question strikes at Lucas's core professional ethics. Academic recognition versus cultural preservation. Discovery versus protection. "I would never," he begins. "Not intentionally," Maria interrupts. "But once knowledge exists, it can't be contained." They regard each other in tense silence, trust suddenly fragile between them. Finally, Lucas says, "What do you suggest?" "Meet your team before they reach this valley. Guide them along the eastern tributary, away from Nayara paths." Lucas weighs the proposal. It means leaving tomorrow facing the jungle alone, still weakened from his ordeal. And you, with the Nayara approaching and the baby coming soon? Maria's hand returns to her pendant. This land is where I belong, where my child belongs. The fire crackles between them, casting shifting shadows across their faces. Lucas studies Maria, this woman of two worlds, carrying a child of three heritages. His scientific detachment has long since dissolved into something deeper, more complicated. I'll leave at dawn, he says finally. But Maria, I will come back. She meets his gaze steadily. The jungle decides who stays and who goes. Not us. Outside, the drums continue their ancient conversation, calling to something in Maria's blood that Lucas can study, but never truly understand. Dawn hasn't yet broken when Lucas prepares to leave. Maria packs him provisions, dried meat, fruit, water in a gourd canteen. Her movements are efficient but slower than usual, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath her eyes. You didn't sleep, Lucas observes, checking his makeshift pack. The baby was restless. She doesn't mention her own anxiety, but it hangs between them, unspoken. Lucas lays his maps on the table, carefully marking the route he intends to take. If I follow this tributary, I should intercept my team before they reach Nayara territory. Maria studies the route, then makes a slight adjustment. This ridge is impassable now. The storm would have caused landslides. Go here instead. Her finger traces an alternative path before rolling the map. Lucas hesitates, then begins marking additional locations, tribal boundary indicators, medicinal plant concentrations, dangerous terrain. Knowledge Maria has shared with him over weeks of jungle lessons. What are you doing? She asks, creating a record. Just in case. He doesn't finish the thought. Maria understands. The jungle is unforgiving. Not everyone who enters emerges. Good, she says simply. As first light filters through the trees, Lucas kneels beside Roberto's grave, paying silent respect to the man who built this sanctuary. When he rises, he's holding something in his hands, a small wooden device with a sliver of metal balanced on a pivot point. I made this last night, he explains, showing Maria. It's a simple compass. Roberto's nails were iron. I magnetized one using your silk scarf and the correct technique. Maria takes the handmade compass, turning it carefully. The magnetized sliver swings faithfully north. Roberto would appreciate the craftsmanship. She says softly, keep it. If you need to leave quickly. Lucas glances toward the western jungle, where drum sounds had continued intermittently through the night. I won't leave. Maria's hand goes to her belly protectively. This is my child's birthright. Our home. Lucas doesn't argue. Instead, he produces a second compass, identical to the first. I made two. Their eyes meet in understanding. One compass to stay, one to return. At the edge of the clearing, final preparations complete, Lucas shoulders his pack. The moment of departure arrives too quickly, weighted with words neither has spoken. 3 days, Lucas says, to reach my team and guide them safely past. Another 3 to return, if the rivers aren't flooded. Maria nods, maintaining practical focus. If I'm not here when you return, check the cave behind the waterfall. I've prepared emergency supplies there. You've thought of everything. Survival requires planning. Her voice softens. Roberto taught me that. The mention of her husband creates momentary distance between them, a reminder of boundaries still unresolved. Lucas adjusts his pack, uncomfortable with the emotions threatening to surface. I should go while the light is good. Maria reaches suddenly for her neck, removing the pendant. Take this. Lucas stares at the carved stone in shock. Maria, no. This is your protection, your heritage. The Nayara believe it guides its bearer through danger. She places it firmly in his palm. I have my grandmother's blood to protect me. You need this more. The gesture's significance overwhelms him. Lucas carefully places the pendant around his neck, tucking it beneath his shirt. I'll return it when I come back. See that you do. Her attempt at lightness fails as her voice catches. Impulsively, Lucas steps forward and embraces her, careful of her pregnant belly between them. Maria stiffens momentarily. then relaxes into the contact, her head resting briefly against his shoulder. "Be careful," she whispers. They separate, both slightly embarrassed by the display of emotion. Lucas touches the compass at his belt, then nods once and turns toward the jungle path. Maria watches until he disappears among the trees, one hand on her belly, the other holding the matching compass. Lucas moves swiftly through familiar terrain, following Maria's guidance from weeks of jungle lessons. The weight of the pendant against his chest provides strange comfort as he navigates increasingly difficult passages. By midday, he reaches the ridge overlooking the eastern tributary. Below, the swollen river rushes with storm debris. Lucas scans both banks carefully, looking for signs of his approaching search party. Instead, he spots something unexpected: fresh boot prints in the mud. Not jungle-worn feet like Maria's, but the distinctive tread of expedition boots, similar to his own. Lucas kneels to examine them. Multiple sets, heading not downriver toward the research station, but inland, directly toward Maria's homestead from another direction. Cold realization washes over him. These aren't his search party's tracks. Someone else is in the jungle, someone with professional equipment, moving purposefully toward the very place he's just left. The pendant seems to grow heavier against his skin as Lucas stands, facing an impossible choice: continue toward his team as planned, or return immediately to warn Maria about these unknown visitors. Behind him, faintly the Nayara drums begin again. Lucas doesn't hesitate. The unknown boot prints present an immediate threat to Maria. He turns and races back through the jungle, following his own trail with desperate speed. Meanwhile, Maria sorts through dried herbs, preparing remedies she might need during childbirth. The baby has been unusually active today, pressing uncomfortably against her ribs. As she works, a sharp pain causes her to gasp and brace against the table. Too soon for real labor, but her body is preparing. The pain subsides. Maria moves to her bed to rest, unconsciously reaching for her pendant, before remembering she gave it to Lucas. Instead, her fingers find the small tin box hidden in her mattress. She rarely opens it. The contents belong to a past she's kept separate from her life with Roberto. Today, something compels her to look. Inside lies a yellowed photograph, edges worn from handling. A young woman in elaborate ceremonial dress stands beside an elder tribal woman. Though the image is faded, the resemblance between the younger woman and Maria is unmistakable. "Grandmother," Maria whispers, tracing the ceremonial markings on the woman's face. The designs match those on her pendant, now traveling with Lucas. A sudden instinct, the kind Roberto called her jungle sense, makes Maria glance toward the door. She moves quickly to the window, peering cautiously through the shutters. 3 men in expedition gear emerge from the eastern path, not the direction Lucas took. They move with purpose, scanning the clearing methodically. Not Lucas's colleagues, but strangers with machetes and equipment. Maria retreats from the window, mind racing. The boundary marker should have warned them away. Either they missed it or chose to ignore it. Neither option bodes well. She gathers essentials quickly: water, food, medical supplies, into a small pack, moving with the efficiency of someone accustomed to emergency preparations. The wooden compass Lucas made goes into her pocket. As she prepares to slip out the back, voices approach the door. Maria freezes, then moves silently to retrieve the ceremonial spear from beneath the floorboards. A sharp knock. "Hello, anyone home?" The voice speaks Spanish with an American accent. Maria remains silent, positioned beside the door, spear ready. "We know someone lives here," the voice continues. "We just want to talk." The door handle turns. Maria raises the spear. The door bursts open and Lucas lunges through, slamming it shut behind him. "Lucas!" Maria lowers the weapon in shock. "There are men coming," he begins, then sees her ready pack and the spear. "You know, I saw them from the window." Maria moves to secure the door. "Not your people." "No, different equipment, moving too purposefully." Lucas catches his breath. "They're heading straight here. Professional expedition, but not academic. Prospectors," Maria says grimly. They come every few years, searching for gold or hardwoods. Lucas peers through the shutters. They've stopped at the edge of the clearing, looking at something, the boundary marker. Maria joins him at the window. They're deciding whether to respect it. Outside, the three men confer, one pointing toward the Nyara marker, another toward the hut. The third checks a GPS device, nodding confirmation. They know exactly where they are, Lucas observes. This isn't random exploration, Maria's expression hardens. The company Roberto worked for before we came here, they've been trying to survey this valley for years. The Nyara have prevented it, and now they've sent professionals to finish the job. Lucas turns from the window. We need to leave immediately. My team is still days away. I told you I won't abandon this land. Maria places a protective hand on her belly. My child's inheritance. Maria, please. Lucas gestures toward her advanced pregnancy. You're in no condition to face these men alone. Before she can respond, the men outside call again. We're representatives of Vanguard Resources. We know you're in there. Lucas freezes. Vanguard? They're funding my expedition. Maria stares at him. What? Partially. They're documenting medicinal plants for pharmaceutical development. Lucas's face shows his confusion. But this isn't my team. Maria pulls the yellowed photograph from her pocket, thrusting it at Lucas. Look at this. Really look. Lucas examines the image. His anthropologist's training immediately recognizing the significance of the ceremonial dress. The facial markings, the ritual posture. This is your grandmother? He asks, voice hushed. She wasn't just any Nyara. She was their head healer, keeper of medicinal knowledge passed down for generations. Maria reclaims the photo. Knowledge your Vanguard people are here to collect, with or without permission. Understanding dawns on Lucas's face. My research was never about pure documentation. They wanted locations, identification of valuable species, and tribal contacts, Maria adds bitterly. The men outside have moved closer to the hut. One examines the small garden, another takes photographs of the medicinal plants, drying on the porch. Lucas makes a decision. The cave you mentioned, behind the waterfall. We go there now, use the back path. For once, Maria doesn't argue. We have minutes before they enter. As they gather final supplies, Lucas hands Maria her pendant. This belongs with you. Maria takes it, then hesitates, looking at the photograph once more. Lucas, there's something you should know about the child. Later, he urges, hearing footsteps on the porch. Maria nods, tucking both pendant and photograph away. With one last look at the home she and Roberto built, she follows Lucas through the concealed back exit. Just as the front door swings open, the hidden path behind Maria's hut winds through dense undergrowth, barely visible even to experienced eyes. Lucas follows Maria closely, marveling at her agility despite her advanced pregnancy. She moves with the confidence of someone following a memorized route rather than visible markers. Roberto and I established escape paths in all directions, she explains in hushed tones. The jungle teaches preparedness. A shout from the direction of the hut indicates their absence has been discovered. Lucas glances back nervously, but Maria maintains her steady pace. They won't find this trail, she assures him. The entrance reseals naturally. They continue for nearly an hour, the terrain growing steeper as they approach the ridge concealing the waterfall. Maria pauses occasionally, one hand supporting her lower back, breathing deliberately through what Lucas recognizes as increasing discomfort. The baby? He asks during one such pause. Practice contractions. Still irregular, she straightens with determination. We need to reach the cave before dark. As they navigate a particularly challenging incline, the distant sound of the waterfall becomes audible. Maria's relief is visible as they crest the ridge and see the silver cascade tumbling into a clear pool below. The cave entrance is behind the falls, she explains, beginning the descent. Roberto discovered it while fishing. We reinforced it as a shelter. Halfway down, Maria freezes suddenly, head tilted in concentration. Lucas listens but hears only jungle sounds and the waterfall. What? He begins. But Maria raises a hand for silence. Then he hears it. A high, tremulous whistle unlike any bird call, repeating in a distinct pattern. Maria's expression transforms with recognition. From her pocket, she produces a small object Lucas hasn't seen before, a hollowed bone whistle decorated with intricate carvings. She blows a responding pattern, the sound carrying across the jungle canopy. Nayara signal, she explains, tucking the whistle away. They're acknowledging our presence in this territory. Is that good or bad? It means they're watching. Maria continues down the path, and that they recognize me. They reach the pool as afternoon light begins to fade. The waterfall thunders into the basin, creating a constant mist. Maria leads Lucas carefully along slippery rocks toward the cascading water. We need to move quickly through the falls, she instructs. Follow exactly where I step. Lucas stays close as Maria navigates behind the powerful water curtain, revealing a narrow opening in the rock face. They slip inside, the roar of the falls immediately muffled. The cave beyond is larger than Lucas expected, a natural chamber with a high ceiling. Evidence of preparation is everywhere. Stacked firewood, sealed containers of supplies, even a simple sleeping pallet. Roberto's thoroughness continues to impress Lucas even in absence. Maria lights a small oil lamp, illuminating the space. We should be safe here for several days if necessary. Lucas helps her settle onto the pallet, concern growing as he notices her increasing grimaces of discomfort. The contractions are getting stronger, aren't they? Maria nods reluctantly. Still far apart. False labor, perhaps. Or stress-induced early labor, Lucas counters, his academic knowledge of childbirth suddenly relevant. You need to rest. Outside, darkness falls quickly, as it always does in the jungle. Lucas secures the cave entrance with a camouflage panel Roberto designed, then checks their supplies and builds a small, ventilated fire. As they share a simple meal, Maria explains more about the Nayara whistle. Each family line has its unique call pattern. This was my grandmother's, passed to my mother, then to me. She demonstrates the sequence again softly. It identifies me as blood connected to the healing lineage. And the response we heard? Scout acknowledgement. They'll report to the elders. Maria's hand goes to her pendant. With the vanguard men in the valley, the tribe will be on highest alert. Lucas's guilt intensifies. I had no idea my research was being used this way. I thought we were documenting knowledge for preservation, not exploitation. Many anthropologists begin with pure intentions, Maria says without accusation. Companies like Vanguard know exactly how to manipulate academic passion. A particularly strong contraction interrupts their conversation. Maria breathes through it, eyes closed, counting silently. When it passes, Lucas asks the question that's been troubling him since the hut. What were you going to tell me about the baby? Before we had to leave? Maria meets his gaze steadily. The Nayara believe that children born to their bloodlines inherit specific gifts depending on their conception and gestation circumstances. What does that mean for your child? My grandmother was a healer. I was carrying her lineage already. Maria touches her belly gently. But when Roberto died and I continued living harmoniously with the land, following his respectful practices while carrying this child, she's interrupted by a sharp whistle outside the cave, closer than before. Distinctive in its pattern, Lucas tenses. Nayara? Maria nods, struggling to her feet. Yes, but not just any Nayara. Her face shows both relief and apprehension. That's the call of the voice of ancestors. The tribal elder himself. Here, now? The elder wouldn't come himself unless... Maria's expression shifts to understanding. They know about the vanguard men, and they've come for us. Another contraction grips her, stronger than before. As it subsides, Maria makes a decision. She retrieves the signal whistle and blows a new pattern, longer, more complex than before. What did you tell them? Lucas asks. That I accept their protection, Maria says simply. For both of us. Lucas moves the camouflage panel aside, revealing 3 figures silhouetted against the night jungle. The central figure stands tall, dignified, adorned with subtle markers of authority, feathers and beads woven into silver-streaked hair, the face painted with intricate patterns that echo those on Maria's pendant. 2 younger men flank him, their posture protective but not threatening. All three carry simple weapons, bows and spears, but hold them pointed downward in non-aggressive stances. Maria steps forward, one hand supporting her belly, and bows her head respectfully. "Voice of ancestors," she greets in Spanish. Then adds phrases in a language Lucas doesn't recognize, fluid, melodic words that sound ancient in her mouth. The elder's weathered face reveals no surprise at her knowledge of tribal language. He responds in the same tongue, his gaze moving between Maria and Lucas with calm assessment. Maria translates for Lucas. He says, "Vanguard men desecrate sacred grounds. They seek the healing plants. The tribe has been watching them since they crossed the eastern ridge." The elder speaks again, this time directly to Lucas in halting but clear Spanish. "You brought them here?" Lucas feels the weight of accusation. "Not intentionally. They used my research. I didn't know." The elder studies him silently, then nods once, neither forgiveness nor condemnation, merely acknowledgement. Turning back to Maria, the elder gestures toward her pregnant belly and speaks urgently. She pales at his words. "What is it?" Lucas asks. "The vanguard men have equipment for taking plant samples, but also—" She hesitates. "Recording devices, cameras. They're documenting everything at the homestead. If they find any evidence of the Nayara, they'll track the tribe to its source," Lucas finishes, understanding the danger. "Where is the village now?" The elder speaks again, and Maria translates. 3 hours' journey north. They've established their seasonal camp near the sacred pools. The elder extends his hand, offering Maria an intricately carved wooden staff. She accepts it with evident emotion, running her fingers over the symbols etched into its surface. "My grandmother's lineage markers," she explains to Lucas. "He honors me as her descendant." The elder speaks directly to Lucas again. "She carries a sacred child. The timing of its birth was foretold." His eyes reflect firelight as he adds, "You are part of this story now, man of science." Before Lucas can respond, Maria gasps sharply, doubling over as a contraction seizes her. This one lasts longer than previous ones. The elder and his companions exchange concerned glances. He speaks rapidly to Maria, who nods through her pain. He says, "We must reach the sacred pools before the birth begins in earnest." She translates between controlled breaths. "The child should be born in tribal territory with proper ceremonies," Lucas protests. "You're in no condition to travel 3 hours through jungle at night." The elder seems to understand without translation. He gestures to the younger men, who produce a simple but ingeniously constructed litter from materials they've brought. "They've prepared for this possibility," Maria explains, leaning heavily on the ceremonial staff. "The Nayara have been monitoring my pregnancy since Roberto died." Lucas weighs their limited options. The cave is secure but isolated. If complications arise during childbirth, Maria would have only his limited knowledge to rely on. The Nayara at least would have generations of birthing experience. "What about the vanguard team?" he asks. The elder speaks, Maria translating. "They've set watches. If the outsiders follow, they will be diverted." The euphemism isn't lost on Lucas, but he recognizes the priorities at stake. "We should go immediately. They prepare quickly." Lucas gathering only essential supplies, while the Nayara ready the litter for Maria. Her contractions are now coming regularly, though still spaced enough to allow travel. As they extinguish the fire and prepare to leave, Lucas asks Maria about the staff. "What does it signify beyond your lineage?" "It's a healer's staff," she explains, using it to support herself as they exit the cave. "But also," she hesitates, searching for words, "it recognizes authority, the right to speak for one's people." Outside, the jungle night enfolds them. The Nayara move with practiced silence, guiding the small party along invisible paths. Maria reclines in the litter, gripping the staff through each contraction. While Lucas walks alongside, the elder leads their procession, occasionally stopping to listen or examine trail signs invisible to Lucas's untrained eye. At one such pause, he speaks quietly to Maria. He says the jungle welcomes its daughter home, she translates, voice thick with emotion, and prepares to greet its new child. They continue through the night, the jungle opening before them like a living entity responding to the elder's presence. Lucas, scientist that he is, can't help but feel they've crossed from one world into another, from known reality into something ancient and profound. Maria reaches for his hand during a particularly strong contraction. "I never expected to return to my grandmother's people like this," she whispers. "Life has strange circles." Lucas squeezes her hand in silent support, watching as she breathes through pain with disciplined focus, the ceremonial staff never leaving her grasp. Above them, stars wheel in brief glimpses through the canopy. Below, the earth seems to pulse, with each step toward the sacred pools where a new life, bridging worlds, prepares to enter the jungle's embrace. First, light filters through the canopy as they reach the Nyara encampment. Unlike the permanent villages Lucas has studied, this seasonal settlement blends almost invisibly with the jungle. Structures crafted from living plants and natural materials, designed to leave minimal trace when abandoned. Women emerge from dwellings as their group arrives, alerted by advanced scouts. They surround Maria's litter, murmuring in their melodic language. Though their faces show no overt emotion, their gentle hands and efficient movements convey clear concern. "The birth house is prepared," one woman tells Maria in Spanish, gesturing toward a circular structure set slightly apart from the others. Lucas watches helplessly as they carry Maria inside, uncertain of his place in this ritual moment. The elder, sensing his unease, places a weathered hand on Lucas's shoulder. "Come," he says simply, guiding Lucas to a nearby dwelling. Inside, the elder seats himself on a woven mat and indicates Lucas should do the same. A young woman brings a steaming liquid in wooden cups before departing silently. "Drink," the elder instructs. "Calms the spirit." Lucas sips cautiously, recognizing a blend of herbs similar to what Maria had prepared at the homestead. The elder watches him with penetrating eyes. "You care for the daughter of our lineage," he states, not a question. Lucas considers denying it, maintaining professional distance, but finds himself nodding instead. "I do, yet you brought danger to her door, unintentionally," Lucas insists. "I never knew Vanguard's true purpose." The elder makes a dismissive gesture. "Intentions matter less than consequences." Lucas cannot argue with this wisdom. "How can I make amends?" "By understanding what approach is." The elder leans forward. "The child Maria carries is not just any child. It is a vessel of knowledge born of 3 worlds. 3? Her grandmother's tribal blood, the respectful stewardship of the land through her husband. And now," the elder's gaze intensifies, "the bridging knowledge you represent." Lucas's scientific mind rebels against the mysticism, but he remains respectfully silent. From the birth house comes the sound of women's voices raised in rhythmic chanting. The elder cocks his head, listening. "They prepare her with the ancestral bowl," he explains. "Water from sacred pools, infused with plants known only to our healers. The same bowl that received her grandmother and mother into this world." Outside, the encampment has become fully active, with people moving purposefully about their morning tasks. Yet Lucas senses an underlying tension. Extra guards posted at the perimeter, hushed conversations, frequent glances toward the surrounding jungle. "The Vanguard men," Lucas guesses. "They're nearby?" The elder nods. Their machines detected heat signatures. "They move in this direction, though slowly. Our diversion tactics delay but do not stop them. What happens if they find this place?" The elder's expression grows grim. "For generations, we have protected our knowledge from those who would take without understanding. Sometimes—" He makes a slashing gesture across his throat. Lucas's blood runs cold. "There must be another way, perhaps." The elder rises. "Come." He leads Lucas to a larger communal structure where several tribal members work with various plants, crushing, drying, mixing. The elder explains that this is their medicine house, where healing preparations are made. "Our people have known the language of plants since before your ancestors crossed oceans," the elder says. "We do not own this knowledge. We are its guardians." Lucas recognizes many plants from his research, but others are completely unfamiliar. One workstation holds specimens identical to those the Vanguard team had prioritized in their collection directives. The Elder notices Lucas's recognition. These heal the dying sickness in your world. Your companies would take patent profit, while our role as knowledge keepers is erased. Shame washes over Lucas. His academic pursuits, however well-intentioned, have contributed to this exploitation. A young runner enters breathlessly, speaking rapidly to the Elder in their language. The Elder's expression remains impassive, but his eyes betray concern. "What is it?" Lucas asks. "Your other people, the search party, have encountered the Vanguard team. There is conflict between them." Lucas's heart sinks. His colleagues, likely confused about the Vanguard presence, confronting armed prospectors. "I need to help them and abandon Maria?" The Elder challenges. Before Lucas can respond, the women's chanting from the birthhouse shifts to a higher pitch. The Elder turns toward the sound. "It begins," he says. "The birth?" Lucas asks, torn between obligations. "The birth, yes, but also the choice." The Elder fixes Lucas with a penetrating gaze. Every generation faces a moment when the future must be decided. For the Nayara, that moment has arrived. From the birthhouse, Maria's voice rises in a cry of pain, the unmistakable sound of active labor. "Go to her," the Elder says. "I will send scouts to monitor both groups of outsiders." As Lucas hurries toward the birthhouse, the Elder calls after him. "Remember, man of science, you stand at the intersection of worlds. What you choose to protect will determine what survives." Lucas pauses at the threshold of the birthhouse, the Elder's words weighing heavily on him. Inside, Maria's destiny and that of her child unfolds. Outside, the competing interests of academic research, corporate greed, and indigenous sovereignty hurtle toward collision. He takes a deep breath and enters to find Maria seated above the ancestral stone bowl, surrounded by tribal women, her face shining with sweat and determination. The birthhouse air is thick with herbal steam and the voices of women. Maria kneels on a woven mat, gripping a hanging rope during contractions. 5 tribal women attend her, the eldest directing, younger ones providing support and preparing supplies. When Lucas enters, there's a moment of tension until Maria calls his name. The lead midwife studies him, then nods permission to approach. "Lucas," Maria reaches for his hand, her face flushed with exertion. The baby comes quickly. He kneels beside her, medical knowledge warring with emotional response. "I'm here," they say. A contraction interrupts her words. When it passes, she continues. "They say this is happening faster than normal." The child is eager to enter the world. The eldest midwife speaks to Maria in their language, then addresses Lucas in halting Spanish. "You know healing ways?" "Some," Lucas admits. "Academic knowledge, not practical experience." The woman considers this, then points to various herbs and preparations. "Know these?" Lucas identifies several from his research and Maria's teachings, impressing the midwife enough that she allows him to remain. She places his hand on Maria's lower back, demonstrating a pressure technique to ease pain. As Maria labors, the younger women work nearby, threading beads onto a cord. Lucas notices they've incorporated Roberto's wedding band, which Maria had worn around her neck. One woman gestures for Lucas to contribute something, understanding dawns. He reaches into his pocket for a polished riverstone he'd collected days earlier, attracted by its unusual blue-green coloring. The women accept it with approving nods, adding it to their creation. Between contractions, Maria explains a mother's necklace, protection for birth and beyond. Elements from all facets of the mother's journey. Lucas watches as they add a distinctive carved bead that Maria identifies as her grandmother's. 3 worlds connected, she whispers. Outside, a commotion breaks the focused atmosphere. Male voices argue, then the elder enters, his composure slightly fractured. The outsiders approach from 2 directions, he informs them. "Your search party from the east, Vanguard from the south." Lucas rises immediately. "I need to intercept my team, explain the situation." The elder nods. Our scouts will guide you. Maria grabs Lucas's wrist with surprising strength. Protect them, she says, eyes intense despite her pain. The knowledge, my child's birthright. He clasps her hand. I will return. The midwife presses something into his palm, a small pouch of herbs. For strength, she says simply. Outside, Lucas finds the camp mobilizing with quiet efficiency. Women gather children. Men prepare defensive positions. Elders secure sacred objects. 2 young men with bows wait to guide Lucas. The elder approaches one final time. Your science seeks to document our knowledge, while Vanguard seeks to own it. Neither understands that our wisdom lives not in plants alone, but in relationship with them. I'm beginning to understand, Lucas responds. The elder gestures toward the birthhouse. That child represents a new possibility, knowledge preserved through connection rather than extraction. With that cryptic statement, he turns away. Lucas follows his guides, moving swiftly through the jungle. They travel perhaps 20 minutes before one scout raises his hand in warning. Voices drift through the trees, English voices. Lucas's team. The scouts melt into the foliage as Lucas steps forward alone. Hello, Professor Carter. It's Lucas Turner. 4 figures burst into view, equipment laden and visibly relieved. Lucas, thank God. The expedition leader, Professor Carter, embraces him briefly. We thought you were dead. Nearly was, Lucas acknowledges. Listen, there's a dangerous situation. The Vanguard team? We've already encountered them. Carter's expression darkens. They claim to be supporting our research, but they're armed and acting suspiciously. Emilia confronted their leader about unauthorized collection activities. Lucas explains rapidly about Maria, the Nayara settlement, and the imminent birth, omitting sacred details, but emphasizing the threat Vanguard poses to indigenous knowledge. So that's their game, Carter says grimly, using our academic credentials to access protected tribal information. Classic biopiracy. We need to delay them, Lucas urges. Give the Nayara time to relocate their most vulnerable members. Carter nods decisively. We can help with that. Emilia has already contacted the Research Foundation by satellite phone. When they learn Vanguard is operating illegally in protected indigenous territory, a distant sound interrupts, a complex pattern of whistles that Lucas recognizes as Nayara signals, followed by a woman's cry that carries even through dense jungle. Maria, Lucas whispers, turning instinctively toward the sound. Carter catches his arm. The tribal settlement is that way? Then Vanguard is headed directly for it. They have GPS tracking equipment. I have to get back, Lucas says with sudden urgency. We'll handle Vanguard, Carter promises. Ja, go. Lucas races through the jungle, following the path back to the settlement. The Nayara scouts appear alongside him, matching his pace. One points to a column of smoke rising in the distance, not from the settlement's direction, but from somewhere between it and the approaching Vanguard team. Diversion, the scout explains. When Lucas reaches the settlement, he finds it transformed. Many dwellings stand empty, essential items removed. The elder waits at the center, calm amid the controlled evacuation. Maria? Lucas asks breathlessly. The elder points to the birthhouse, where the women's voices have shifted to a rhythmic chant. The moment approaches. New life. New beginning. Lucas hesitates, torn between Maria's imminent delivery and the external threats. Your people will delay the intruders, the elder asks. Yes, and have contacted authorities about Vanguard's illegal activities. The elder nods with satisfaction. Then your place is there, he says, indicating the birthhouse. Witness what your quest for knowledge has helped create. As Lucas moves toward the birthhouse, the completed mother's necklace is brought out by a young attendant. Beads, band, and stone now unified in a circle of protection. Ready to welcome a child of 3 worlds, inside the birthhouse, time loses meaning. Maria moves through the final stages of labor with primal focus, supported by the steady presence of the midwives. Lucas kneels beside her, one hand firmly clasped in hers, the other applying pressure to her lower back as the eldest midwife showed him. The head crowns, announces the lead midwife in her language. which Lucas now understands enough to recognize important phrases. Maria's face transforms with determination as she works with the next contraction. The women's chanting intensifies, creating a rhythmic foundation that seems to carry Maria through the most difficult moments. Roberto should be here, she whispers to Lucas during a brief respite between contractions. He is. In his way, Lucas assures her, surprising himself with the sentiment. His scientific mind has been increasingly open to the spiritual frameworks that sustain the Nayara and Maria. The final stage happens with stunning swiftness. One moment Maria is bearing down with transcendent effort. The next, a new cry pierces the air, fierce, indignant, alive. A son, the midwife announces. Lifting the wet, squirming infant, Maria collapses back against Lucas, exhausted but reaching for her child. The midwives efficiently clean the baby before placing him on Maria's chest. His cries immediately soften as he finds his mother's warmth. Lucas watches in awe as Maria whispers to her son in 3 languages: Spanish, English, and Nayara, welcoming him to all his worlds at once. The lead midwife approaches with something wrapped in ceremonial cloth. She unwraps it carefully, revealing an obsidian blade with an intricately carved wooden handle. The sacred knife, Maria explains to Lucas, her voice thick with emotion. Used only for this moment, separating mother and child physically while maintaining their spiritual bond. The midwife offers the knife to Lucas. He starts to refuse, but Maria nods encouragement. You should do this. It honors all parts of his journey. With careful hands, Lucas takes the obsidian blade. Following the midwife's guidance, he cuts the umbilical cord that connected Maria to her son. The black stone gleams in the filtered light, impossibly sharp yet under his inexperienced hands, causing no pain. As he completes this ritual act, distant shouts penetrate the birthhouse, male voices raised in alarm, then the unmistakable sound of a gunshot. The midwives exchange worried glances. The eldest moves to the door, speaking urgently with someone outside. When she returns, her expression is grave. Vanguard men evaded your colleagues, she tells Lucas. They approach the settlement perimeter. Maria clutches her newborn protectively. We must move deeper into tribal territory. You're in no condition, Lucas begins. The child must be protected, the lead midwife interrupts. His first cry has been heard. The knowledge awakens in him already. Another shot echoes, closer this time. Lucas makes a decision. I'll confront them, he says. By time for you to move Maria and the baby. Maria catches his hand. They're armed, Lucas. So am I, he responds, tapping his temple. With information that could destroy Vanguard's reputation in the academic world. The elder appears at the doorway. Our warriors prepare to defend, but blood spilled on a birthday brings generations of misfortune. Let me try, Lucas insists. These men work for my funders. They'll listen to reason. The elder studies Lucas, then nods once. Speak with the voice of 3 worlds, as the child was born of them. Outside, the Nayara settlement has transformed into a defensive position. Warriors with bows stand ready, while women and children retreat into the jungle. Professor Carter and a female colleague Lucas recognizes as Amelia have arrived, engaged in heated argument with 2 armed Vanguard men. Turner calls the Vanguard leader upon seeing Lucas. Tell your academic friends to stand down. We have legal permits for this research area. Lucas approaches calmly, presenting no threat. Your permits don't extend to indigenous territories, Davidson, especially not to a birthing site on a sacred day. Davidson scoffs. Mystical nonsense. We're documenting botanical resources on behalf of our mutual sponsors and planning to patent them without crediting the knowledge keepers, Emilia interjects, recording the confrontation on her satellite phone. The University Ethics Board is already reviewing your company's activities. Lucas positions himself directly between the Vanguard men and the birthhouse. A child has just been born here. A child with direct lineage to the tribal healers whose knowledge you're attempting to steal. Davidson's expression wavers between dismissal and calculation. That changes nothing legally. Perhaps not, Lucas concedes. But ethically. The international scientific community will crucify. Vanguard, when they learn you threatened an indigenous settlement during a sacred birth ceremony, and did so using academic research as cover. Amelia raises her satellite phone meaningfully. Still transmitting to the department head. Davidson lowers his weapon slightly, recognizing the public relations disaster unfolding. Before he can respond, a new sound cuts through the tension. The clear, strong cry of a newborn child. Lucas turns to see Maria emerging from the birthhouse. Supported by midwives, her son cradled against her chest. The Nayara warriors move to surround her protectively, but she walks forward with quiet dignity. The mother's necklace gleams around her neck, the obsidian blade now hanging as a pendant alongside it. Her son's face turns curiously toward the strangers, his dark eyes oddly focused for a newborn. Something in the tableau, the indigenous warriors, the academic researchers, the corporate interlopers, all frozen in the presence of new life, creates a moment of profound silence. Maria breaks it, her voice clear despite her exhaustion. My son enters a world of conflict, but he will live in harmony. His existence bridges what you would divide. Remember his face. Even Davidson seems momentarily humbled before Maria's maternal authority and the elder's weathered dignity flanking her. The moment balances on a knife's edge, violence or peace, exploitation or respect, hanging in the fragile space between heartbeats. 1 month later, Maria sits in the doorway of her rebuilt hut, nursing her son as afternoon light dapples the clearing. The homestead has been transformed, not just repaired from storm damage, but enhanced, expanded through the collaborative work of many hands. Nayara women tend the enlarged garden beds, where medicinal plants now grow in carefully arranged patterns. Near the edge of the clearing, Professor Carter examines soil samples while conversing with a tribal elder about sustainable cultivation methods. Maria's gaze shifts to Lucas, who crouches beside Roberto's grave with 2 Nayara men, securing a new marker that incorporates both Christian symbols and tribal motifs, acknowledgement of the harmonious philosophies that guided Roberto's life. The confrontation with Vanguard had ended without violence that birthday. Davidson, faced with academic witnesses and satellite documentation of his team's incursion into protected indigenous territory, had chosen strategic retreat. The subsequent investigation had already resulted in Vanguard losing multiple research contracts. Professor Carter's university, in consultation with tribal elders, established a revolutionary protocol for documenting traditional knowledge, one that left ownership with the knowledge keepers while creating protected academic records that prevented corporate patenting. And Lucas had made his choice. He approaches now, wiping soil from his hands, his academic precision finding expression in practical work. The pendant Maria once gave him still hangs around his neck, matching her own. The grave marker is complete, he tells her. The elders say it will last generations. Maria nods, shifting the now sleeping baby against her shoulder. Roberto would approve of the changes here. They both look around at the homestead's transformation. Nayara tribal members move comfortably throughout the space, some residing in new structures at the clearing's edge, others visiting daily from their nearby seasonal camp. Maria's isolation has been replaced by community, her vulnerability by collective strength. Lucas sits beside her, his shoulder lightly touching hers, the casual intimacy of those who have moved beyond conventional boundaries. The naming ceremony is at sunset, Maria reminds him. Are you certain about this? Lucas asks, his voice reflecting lingering uncertainty about his place in this reconfigured world. Maria's response is to reach inside her dress and withdraw a rolled document, a handcrafted scroll of bark paper, decorated with natural pigments and sealed with beeswax. The elders completed it this morning, she says, carefully unrolling it to reveal intricate script in 3 languages. his three names representing all parts of his heritage. Lucas studies the document with both academic and personal interest. The first name, Roberto Carlos Santos, honors Maria's husband and carries his legacy. The second, written in Nayara script, represents the child's tribal lineage as grandson of a healer. The third name, Lucas recognizes with surprise, incorporates his own. Guardian of knowledge, Maria translates the Nayara phrase that precedes his name. They honor your choice to protect rather than exploit. Lucas's scientific training had not prepared him for the emotions that fatherhood, even of this complex shared variety, would awaken. He touches the sleeping child's hand gently. The university approved my proposal, he tells Maria. I'll document the Nayara healing traditions, but all records remain here under tribal control. They've granted me a special research position with extended field placement. How extended? Maria asks, the question carrying deeper meaning. As long as necessary, Lucas answers, meeting her gaze directly. Years, likely. The baby stirs, dark eyes opening to study Lucas with that disconcerting focus that continues to surprise everyone. Maria smiles at her son's awareness. He recognizes you, she says simply. Across the clearing, Emilia approaches with her satellite equipment. The video conference with the Indigenous Rights Commission is ready whenever you are, Maria. Maria nods. Her role as bridge between worlds has expanded beyond the personal. With her grandmother's lineage, Roberto's land stewardship principles, and Lucas's academic connections, she has become an unexpected but effective advocate for new models of knowledge preservation. As sunset approaches, tribal members and academic researchers gather for the naming ceremony. The voice of ancestors stands with the trilingual scroll, ready to officially welcome the child to all his worlds. Maria rises, adjusting her mother's necklace with its multiple symbolic elements. Lucas moves to stand beside her, close but not presumptuous. Their relationship continues to evolve at its own pace, respectful of Roberto's memory while acknowledging their shared future. Are you ready? Lucas asks quietly. Maria surveys all that has changed, her home transformed into a place of collaboration rather than isolation. Her son born into community rather than solitude, her heritage honored rather than hidden. I have been ready since the day you fell at my feet in the storm, she answers with the hint of a smile. Some journeys are written in our blood long before we understand them. Together, they walk toward the ceremonial circle where past, present, and future converge in the small form of a child born to bridge worlds that once seemed impossibly separate.